So yes, let's jump to this first story because I thought it was a really interesting contrast considering Scott's here and this is just happening. So we have this from the Daily Mail. NYPD commissioner calls Black Lives Matter protesters spoiled brats for wasting police resources after 14 were arrested during last night's demonstrations over the cop killing of a black city worker in Texas. Commissioner Dermot Shea laid into protesters demanding an end to police brutality and racism in an interview with NY1 Tuesday morning. Shea accused them of breaking windows, property damage, graffiti, lighting fires, and called them spoiled brats and knuckleheads. Knuckleheads, that's not particularly edgy at all, but sure. The crazy thing is, though, I've covered a lot of protests and riots and stuff in I shouldn't even say riots in New York. People typically don't go around starting fires and smashing stuff, so this is like a serious escalation for New York City. NYPD told Daily Mail 14 were arrested and 10 summonses issued. New Yorkers took to the streets Monday to protest Jonathan Price's killing. White cop Sean David Lucas gunned down Price while the black man was trying to break up a domestic fight at a gas station in Wolf City Saturday night. Price's death tops off a string of police killings of black men and women across America in recent months, which have sparked nationwide protests. I actually take issue with that last bullet point they got, that it's like, what does it say? A string of killings. It's like they're killings all the time of, tons of different people, and to insinuate there's like a pattern or whatever is kind of, whatever. But so there's a couple things that I wanted to bring up with this story, and then we'll just like launch this into Scott, who you are and what you do. The first thing is, why is it that a cop in Texas kills a dude and they go out and protest the NYPD? Like, the NYPD have anything to do with it? Did smashing that Starbucks window in Seattle have anything to do with it? I kind of feel like they're not really protesting anything. They're just, basically yelling rabble, rabble, rabble. I don't know if you guys, what are your thoughts as we segue now into like what's going on with Black Lives Matter?
Well, violence and hatred don't stop at borders. That's one way to look at it. Similar to pollution.
Well, I just don't get why, if Black Lives Matter, why don't we see this kind of outrage every time every single black person is killed? Why is it only when it's a police officer? Or why is it when it's only when the race is different of the officer and the victim? I mean, if Black lives truly matter, which they do, then where is the outrage when illegal immigrants, for example, kill the black community? We never hear those stories. They never get a protest. They never get a march or demonstration.
It's the critical theory power dynamics. It's the police are the oppressors in a position of power. And so when you bring up that, okay, well, what about this guy killing this guy? They're like, well, that's not authority. Even though it kind of still disregards wealth dynamics and class dynamics. So the reality, the answer to your question, there isn't one. There's no good reason. I can't quite understand it. They just don't like cops. I mean, they don't say all oppression, all oppressors are bad. Aob. They say all cops are bad. But my question, I guess, is like, what ultimately do you accomplish by screaming in the face of an NYPD officer who has no idea what's going on in Texas? Something happened in Texas.
Or let's be real for a second. I mean, why don't these people do something productive like, I believe, about changing a system from the inside out? So if you're fed up with the police system, why don't you become a police officer and reform change from within and have every single one of your Black Lives Matter people become police officers? Or, for example, in Baltimore, why aren't you guys getting AC conditioner and heater units for Baltimore schools where the students had to actually leave school because it was too hot during the summer when they started? Why not do something productive? And I'd be so bold as to say, have these people actually spoken to the black community? Because I speak to the black community. You know what they say? They are against defunding the police because they know that less police equals more crime. So these people in the leadership roles, I don't think they're actually speaking on behalf of the black community in general.
Could you imagine like some Black Lives Matter dude watching the TV and seeing the story and then going, ah, and fury, and then like going outside and rah, and then like building a house and like, putting things together. I'm so angry. I'm going to build this house to help the homeless. It doesn't happen.
That'd be cool.
I mean, I know.
I'd be so there.
Yeah.
It's like they have all this anger and they go outside and they just yell, and then everyone runs around smashing stuff and it doesn't solve any of the problems. And if you try to tell them like, hey, let's take that anger and do something good, they just get angrier. Like, how dare you? It's my righteous anger. I love it. I posted something about there's this meme on Facebook someone posted, and it's like really dumb. They're like, if you're anti-Antifa, that means you're pro-fascist.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay, so here's a question. Like, if there's an Islamophobe who is, like attacking Muslim people, and I go up to them and like I stop them from doing it because I'm anti-Islamophobe, does that make me like pro-Muslim? And they're like, yes. And I was like, but I'm not a fan of organized religion in that capacity, so I'm just anti-violence, right? And they're like, well, you need to understand like what you're supporting when you support fascism. So I asked them straight up, if Antifa goes to, like a bunch of white Antifa go to a black neighborhood and start smashing things up and burning things down, does that make them fascists? And they were like, it means you don't understand why they feel that way and their anger. And I'm like, oh, now it's justified. Like, so now they're allowed to go and attack minorities because their feelings are hurt.
Well, you know, I went to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I went there after they burned down several buildings. And I spoke personally to the business owners, Asian business owner, Hispanic business owner, a black beauty salon was burned to the ground. Mm-hmm. You know, really, how does it help the black community when you're burning down a black community center? I don't get it.
I think they're racists.
Yeah.
I mean, like we talked about this last night, what Prince Harry said, you know, I can't repeat his quote. I have to be very careful about what I say because it's such like Prince Harry said that he believes the world was created, according to Prince Harry, by white people. And he went on to add that it was created, and this is Prince Harry saying this, for white people. You see, I have to phrase that so that the context is like, Prince Harry is the one who said he believes the world was made for his race.
That's racist.
And so these are the people who are going around, and then, you know what I think? I'm willing to bet there's a bunch of people who they really are white supremacists, and they're given carte blanche because the media is like, so long as they're wearing hoodies, you know, they can do whatever they want. And they do. And then afterwards, they're like, don't worry, we're helping. And then what do you see in these videos? It's locals. Like there's one video where these two white women are spray painting and smashing a window, and two black women come up.
Oh yeah,
and they're like, get out of here. And they're like, no, we're helping you. No, you aren't. Get out of my neighborhood, dude. I can't imagine what it must be like to live in this place that's already suffering, and then have these people show up yelling angrily, like, we're helping, as they like punch you and smash everything and like flip your car over, and then when you beg for help, the media calls you the fascist. Yeah, that's
or when you clean up a city, they question your motives.
That's what I love about what you've done. Do you want to explain like what you've been doing and you know who you are?
Sure. Well, my name is Scott Presler. I never thought this would be my life. I started off as a dog walker, graduated from George Mason with a 3.63, just FYI.
Is that good?
But it's okay. It's I could have done better. But I couldn't find a job. So I walked dogs because there's no shame in working hard and a hard day's labor. I moved to Texas to help elect Governor Greg Abbott, which is why I'm always wearing Texas boots. Spent 2 years of my life working to defeat Hillary Clinton, and now I'm on this mission to re-elect Donald Trump. And it was the president, when he was talking about the city of Baltimore and the state of the city, that I decided to tweet on social media, I'm going to Baltimore to go pick up trash. And the tweet went viral, and all these people were wanting to help. And then I was like, uh-oh, because I only had 6 days. And we organized 200 volunteers on a Monday, and we picked up 12 tons of trash in 12 hours in one day in one of the most dangerous streets, West Baltimore, in the country. And then the Baltimore Sun questioned my motives and said,
well, how dare you,
How
Scott?
dare.
I have been watching CNN, okay, and they've told me that the people putting the garbage there and destroying things are the good guys. So clearly that must mean you, by cleaning it up, are a bad guy. My logic is impeccable. Well,
or gosh, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but maybe I should just braid my hair and go around saying, how dare you to everyone.
Yes. How dare you.
That does a lot more than what I've been doing.
Yeah, and ignore the actual polluters.
Why did they... Who questioned you?
The Baltimore Sun.
What were they saying?
They were just questioning why I was coming to town, if it were politically motivated, why now, as opposed to, hey, how can we help you? How can we use our voice to amplify and get more volunteers into our city? You know, because let's say that Democrats were organizing a cleanup in Fairfax, Virginia, where I live. I'd say, hey, you know what? Good on you. Good on you that you're doing something positive, and who knows, maybe I'll come out and join you. And I think we could really make America a better place if we saw more cleaning up as opposed to burning down stuff.
Yes. That's what they do. We actually have the article. Check this out. This is, we assume it was pure motives that led a Trump supporter to launch a cleanup in Cummings district, right? From the editorial board. How ridiculous is this story? The effort was organized by pro-Trump activist Scott Presler. He claimed the event was not political. Yes, he was inspired to come from tweets from President Donald Trump describing the area, represented by U.S. Rep. Elijah Cummings, as a rodent-infested mess. But the visit wasn't about showing support or animosity for either man, he said. Call us skeptical. Look, we appreciate anyone who's willing to roll up their sleeves to help Baltimore. More than 170 people came from all over the country and cleaned up nearly 12 tons of trash, according to Mr. Presler's Twitter feed. He doesn't post any photos of the totality of the trash, so let's take his word for it. But if this was all about Americans helping Americans, why all the videos of Baltimore residents thanking Mr. Trump for bringing attention to the issue? We happen to know that not everybody in West Baltimore feels that way. And in the same post as the videos, why the frequent reminders? This is an act, Mr. Cummings district.
In fact, I'm guessing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In fact, I'm like, what is this word? Copy editor, guys. This is a year-old article. Come on, fix it. Then there's the photo of the Washington Post front page from the day Barack Obama was first elected. Mr. Presler tweeted that volunteers found the strikingly unyellowed decade-old newspaper among the trash. Wow, really?
Whoa.
It was buried under trash.
Dude.
Buried under a pile of trash. I saved it. It's still at my house.
They have the tweet here. That's amazing. It's been 11 years. It was sitting there, and it's like preserved.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I thought it was the most ironic thing.
That's amazing.
Wow. That's nuts, man. They say it's been 11 years, Mr. Presler tweeted, in what reads as a not-so-subtle critique of how much good Mr. Obama did for Baltimore, which is none, I'd imagine. Whatever he says his motives were, Mr. Presler's presence in Baltimore reinforces a tired image of our failing urban cores. That the poor people in this dilapidated city can't take care of their own neighborhoods, and all the public officials around them have failed as well. The bureaucratic, all-talk Democrats strike again. If a crowd of volunteers could clean up 12 tons of trash in 12 hours, how incompetent and helpless must Baltimoreans be if they can't manage it in decades, right? Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but I love how...
Speaking of garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's throw the Baltimore Sun in that pile. I love this.
We all had something to say about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
No, wait. I got to say it. I really love this because, as I've said before, if what you were doing was supposed to be some kind of manipulation of regular people into supporting Trump, I'm like, oh no, he's tricked us. Rats. I hope he doesn't do it again. Oh no, how many people would support him? He's cleaning up garbage. Why are you complaining about it? You'd be like, oh, that's really cool that Trump supporters are cleaning up garbage. Let's get him to do it again.
And it's like, Scott Presler, he's just gonna be nice again.
Yeah, seriously.
we can't have that.
Apparently not.
They were crapping all over you in the beginning of the article, and then they started crapping all over the residents of Baltimore. So I think it was someone with an attitude problem wrote
Seriously.
Dude, I can't believe you found an Obama newspaper.
That is so amazing.
What was it? What newspaper was it? Was it the Baltimore Sun? No, the Washington Post.
It was the 2008 first election of President Obama that was under so much filth and trash that it was preserved. And,
preserved in amber, as it were.
Like the bacteria couldn't decompose the paper. Like there was no water. Where was the rain?
Thank you.
There was so much trash over it. It wasn't getting wet.
We in that first cleanup picked up that 12 tons literally within one block. Like we didn't move. There was so much volume of trash just piled from head to toe.
Wow, man.
So you want to know what I hear when I listen to this stupid article? I hear a ton of guilt. Like, I legit think that everything they're saying about what you believe of them is them projecting what they're actually feeling about what Democrats have done for Baltimore, which is nothing. I mean, it's just nothing.
How dare you expose the shortcomings of our failed politicians?
Seriously.
The shortcomings of Cummings. Yes. Well, and here's what nobody's talking about, too, that a lot of the older residents have been dying and the younger people aren't cleaning it up. That's one thing. And then also I met a woman who's 81 years old and she's 4 foot 10 inches tall. I mean, the woman is like 100 pounds soaking wet. How is she possibly going to organize a cleanup and pick up 12 tons of trash? The fact is, it has nothing to do with them trying to say it's a tired old stereotype of urban communities. No, these people literally just can't physically do it by themselves. So they need a little bit of help. And that's where we come in. What's wrong with that?
You know what's interesting is one of the things I see, basically, you're saying the young people aren't cleaning it up. I feel like it's a lack of community that results in a lot of this. And so the solution from the left tends to be give money to the government will clean it up. But that doesn't solve the community problem. It just creates a bureaucratic mess where you now have administrators who don't really do anything to help. They'll show up, they'll clean up. Well, actually, they're not for whatever reason. But until you have people who think, I'm going to ask my neighbors what we can do to make our neighborhood better, you're just going to keep getting more of this across the country. So I guess my point with this is, I think it's going to start happening everywhere. You look at New York, there's no community there.
Yeah.
It's kind of an example of, we were kind of talking about how cities are starting to fail, or at least starting to rupture, and you can see like people are moving out in the times of COVID. It's another example that people create more trash than they can necessarily clean up or choose to clean up. So we have to have these trash services come in, and if those things can't, for whatever reason, get in, or even if they can, in this sense of what Baltimore was going through, it seems like this trash is just going to continue, and maybe it's not tenable.
How many people, like, how many of you and everybody listening have gone to like your neighbor's house? Like, walked out your door, went to your neighbor and said, hey, I just want to introduce myself. That's not really happening all that much these days. And
not
like,
now.
Even if they do, because like where I was living before up in the Philly area, we did go and talk to the neighbors, just like, hey, what's up? Here's what we're doing. Nice to meet you. Feel free to ask us for anything. And then we never talk ever again. And then this was 10 years ago. One of our buddies, Luke Rutkowski of We Are Change, did this video where he went on the trains in New York. And he was basically saying, you have millions upon millions of people coming in and off these trains. Not once they talk to each other. And so he actually is like, I'm going to talk to these people. And then he asked them a bunch of like questions about like government conspiracy. It was kind of funny. But it is a good point. When I see that you've got the older generation, they don't have the wherewithal, the resources, the time and energy to organize cleanups. And the younger people, they don't see value in their community. I'm not going to say for everybody, to actually organize this cleanup and actually do the job. I think what you're doing is extremely important, but how do you inspire them to be the next person to come and do the cleanup, or to make sure the garbage doesn't come back? You know what I mean?
And just show up. I got a buddy, Justin, in Pittsburgh, who, after doing a cleanup with him, every single month since we did the cleanup, he's not only been doing his own cleanup by himself, but also been registering voters. So I created a little mini Scott Presler in Pittsburgh. Oh, no. My heart sings.
I love it. That's amazing.
And so I kind of feel like I'm a pebble, and I'm just throwing myself in the water, and I'm hoping that the ripple effect is going to, happen, because I run a no pressure campaign. You're never going to inspire somebody to do it by forcing them to do it. And that's what the Democrats don't understand. The difference between Republicans and Democrats is Republicans want you to have the freedom to do what you want. Democrats want you to force you to take action. And so I believe that by doing it positively and with love, and just by doing something, I myself am going to inspire others to take action. Have
you heard of the Gravel Institute?
I haven't.
So they're this Mike Gravel. Actually, I like the guy. I think he's a cool dude. And the people running this, I like. We talked about him a little bit because they just launched this like counter to PragerU. I just, my request is that they tone down the meanness of their tweets and stuff, like insulting people, because their videos are actually well made. Though I disagree with them, I like to see that the left is putting forward these arguments. So there was a video they just put out today called Capitalism versus Freedom. And there's a few really interesting things they say in this. One of which is, how is it freedom that you have to get a job or starve? Ooh. And my first reaction was like, I don't understand. Like, if you were in the middle of the woods and you decided, I'm not going to do any work, you would starve. What makes them think that they're in a city that there's like special circumstance that someone else is going to feed you? But they basically make the argument that because you have to work, you're not free. And because employers, set the terms of employment, you're not actually free. Therefore, I guess, I don't know what their ultimate argument is about how they bring about true freedom. Communism, I guess. So anyway, you mentioned the freedom thing, and I was lingering on this Gravel Institute stuff. And so I don't know. I'm just thinking about who actually wants you to be free, Democrats or Republicans. And when we were talking to Kimberly Klasick. She was on the show a few weeks ago. It feels like the one of the reasons they're probably mad at you is because, for one, you're showing people that by choice, with no expectation of like money or anything in return, you just did something.
Yeah.
And it made everything better. And that's the root of a job, right? So you can be like, I am going to build a thing, and then you make it, and then you go to somebody, well, I would like to give you this thing in exchange for, I don't know, a piece of pie or something. You don't need to go to a company to find money. But the narrative we get from many of these leftists is like, that's the only way to do it. Therefore, we must have communism, otherwise you're not free. Then when you show up and you start making them look bad, it's breaking that stranglehold where they say, basically, if you don't get the solution from us, which they're not really getting in the first place, then it'll be so much worse. When the reality is they need to actually, like individuals, I mean everybody, not just Baltimore, like other places you've been to, it's got to be community. You need people who live in the area to care about the area. But I think you did a cleanup in like Los Angeles, right? Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest problems we have, especially with places like Los Angeles, is that people are in and out. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to stick around. This place is a mess. It's almost like, you know, when it reminds me of that Simpsons joke where the garbage is piled really, really high. And then the rule is whoever knocks the garbage over has to take it out. Huh. So like there's like Bart staples a banana peel to the side of it. They have no interest in doing better. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. And we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out. And we will see you all next time.